Lately I've been thinking about Lester Levenson's quote that we could see perfection where the seeming imperfection seems to be. And that's brought to mind a lot of what we are doing as we struggle in our egos and our sense of me and self. Even if it's really well intended and we're looking for purpose and goodness, we're so busy with all of the energetic material that seems to arise on an emotional level. And we're trying so hard to do the right things in our judgments that we're maybe missing something that's already perfect and already here. And I wanted to share how that led to an observation on one show that was presented on Anderson Cooper, a CNN program, a special documentary that I happened to view. And I'm sure many of you have heard stories of people who have been unconscious and pronounced dead for 5 to 10 minutes, maybe longer, and who've then returned back. And so they've had a so-called after-death experience. And this show was exploring about heaven and back, and what people experienced when they actually left their physical body and they could actually experience what that was like, what they learned, and what happened when they came back. And I guess the most interesting theme tied into this statement about seeing the perfection where the seeming imperfection seems to be, because each of those people really learned something about their own behaviors here on earth and how that fell away, and the meaningless of it was just so apparent when they had their experience in the so-called light and incredible love of the universe, whether that's, we call it God or whatever we call it, heaven. Just that experience of a complete and pure love that transcends anything that we know here. It's completely free of fear. All of these people in the documentary commented on how, for the first time, they were able to truly embrace feeling completely loved unconditionally. And as a result, even though they came back with more to do, they realized what they were doing was already that very purpose. Being here in the various ways that we are is already perfect. And so much is coming from that little place inside where we don't feel loved enough, and we're trying so hard to do the right things. So why don't we do a small release on that? So just for a moment, just check inside and see if you can get in touch with how much you really are well-intended, how much you want to have a purpose, help others, make a mark in the world, do something that will mean something, and just welcome that as best you can. And just feel it as the energy that arises. It's so well intended. It's filled with wanting approval. It's filled with wanting control, wanting security, even wanting oneness and harmony. We've been wanting that our entire human lives. So could you embrace that even more? Can you recognize the potency of that energy? How it pulls us in and attracts us. It makes us feel like we have something we have to do as individuals, when we already are doing exactly what we need to be doing. In this moment, could you let that go just for now? Could you experiment with just letting that huge urge, that huge well-intended doing, could you allow that to pass through as best you can? And even more. And even more. Just willing to be open and to just see it for what it is and let it go just for now. And And then just allow it even more if you can. Can you then invite in a sense of already being unconditionally loved, just as best you can? Can you welcome that feeling of love into the body? As best you can, just give your whole body and being the permission to take in as much love and light and acceptance in this moment. You don't have to know how, just be willing. And even more. And even more as best you can, just to welcome it, to receive, to not hold it back, to let the energy be unconditionally loving. To just open to the possibility that being here is enough. That everything you're going to be doing and doing will be enough. Just as best you can, with a loving and open heart. And just welcome a little mantra every day for yourself, that you are willing to see the perfection that's already here, even if you may not quite clearly see it yet. The perfection in the seeming imperfection that seems to be predominant. I'm willing to see the perfection where the seeming imperfection seems to be. I'm open to seeing it. And to really being filled with more unconditional acceptance of what's already here. And that viewpoint is there when I'm not so clenched about what I personally have to do. It starts to open. And I wish you many blessings from many of those experiences.